Stop! Stop, evildoers!
Introducing super stretching superhero Stretch Armstrong. Yes, Stretch Armstrong. Now stretching fun farther than ever before. He bends, he stretches, even ties and knots, but always returns to his original shape.
How's he do that?
He's been doing that since he was a kid. Stretch Armstrong from Cap Toys. Who else?
Welcome back to Retro Inc. with myself, Adam, and my co-host, Jeremy.
Hello there, how are you?
Very well, thank you. No Andy this week, but he'll be joining us on next week's episode.
I've lived in a world of death. I've watched people I've loved die. Some fast with a bullet. Some not enough left to bury.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my horse to the old town road. I'm gonna ride till I can't no more.
All these years I've kept my secrets. But the time has come to face my past. And if it comes looking for me, they will welcome death. I want revenge.
Ride till I can't no more. Nobody tell me nothing.
I want them to know that death is coming. And there's nothing they can do to stop it.
So, we've just heard this trailer for the new Rambo Last Blood movie, which, do we know when that's being released at all, Jeremy? Do you happen to catch the date of that?
I did, but I've already forgotten it because I have a brain like a sieve.
Coming soon at a cinema near you. Yeah. What did you think of make of the trailer? I like the tone of it. I like the colours. I love the whistling Western music. But apart from that, what did you make of it?
I really enjoyed it. I'm a big fan of both Rambo and Western, so if you want to combine the two of them, I'm all good with that. It's right up my street.
Do you think this is going to have some cohesion with Rambo 4? I haven't seen Rambo 4. You have. What did you make of that film? And do you think this will tie into this one?
I think that Rambo 4 ends not where this one's beginning, but you could see where Rambo 4 ends. I thought that it was a fitting end to Rambo's life. He looked like he'd come home to retire and live a little life of peace. Obviously, that's not to be, I would have said. He's managed to get himself a nice ranch and live in the middle of nowhere.
Which is what a lot of these sort of guys generally do, don't they? Do one last job, they retire, they go and hide somewhere, a little bit like John Wick, but they get discovered. And it looks like he's been discovered again, doesn't it?
No, I don't think this is anyone we've seen before, because Rambo tends to just kill them all. Certainly not anyone left over from 2, 3, and 4. I don't think, because there were some Russians, some Viet Cong, and some Burmese people, and they're all dead, very, very dead.
These guys look like they're kind of drug barons, don't they? Drug cutter gang. We see in the trailer that he's met them on a rooftop, and a sort of bare knuckle fight seems to still be taking place.
Yeah, I mean, the synopsis that I've heard, there's a couple of women. I think they take one under his wing, and I think someone's bad to them. And from the looks of him, he's gone to confront them. He's outnumbered and generally gets a bit of a beating, and then probably the killing will ensue.
Yes, it does generally, doesn't it, with Rambo? And he likes to set some traps. We could see a couple of those with a pitchfork and dig some tunnels. He's been busy digging tunnels.
Yeah, well, that's what I liked about it. There's a lot of nods to the older movies with the pitchfork and, building traps and things like that. I'm not entirely sure I trust the man who built a series of tunnels under his house. Well,
he's prepping. He's prepping. He's been prepping.
Yeah. It depends if there's a cage down the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Jason Voorhees in the remake, but I'm not entirely sure I trust Rambo the best of the time, because he's fairly unhinged. But if he's on your side, you're all right, because you haven't got to worry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If you're his mate. So this is something that you're going to be checking out at the Cineworld.
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching this.
Yep.
I really enjoyed the fourth one. It's probably my second favourite Rambo movie. I mean, the first one came out in 1982, I think it was. I was too young to watch that at the cinema. I'm a baby. But the fourth one is really, really good. He kind of ages gracefully a bit. He knows that he can't kill everyone in the known, and he kind of joins the team. It's usually he's kind of coerced into helping people because he's good nature.
He's a good natured chap, isn't he?
Well, in a psychotic kind of way. I think he means well, but the resolution to all of his problems seems to be murder everyone.
Yeah.
And then the problem is over because there's nobody left to discuss it with.
That seems like a logical conclusion.
Well, I'm not entirely sure he's a man of logic. I mean, as the movies have evolved and characters evolved, and he tries to be more of a pacifist as time goes on, but whatever's happened to him in this one, he seems quite angry.
Doesn't he?
And it appears more personal.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I'm reading into it. I mean, it's going to kill everyone, which is more often not the case. But it seems like a personal, some kind of revenge, vendetta thing, which isn't something he's particularly done before. I mean, the first one, he was just trying to get away and, just live a normal life as a hobo and a bum. Something we aspire to, obviously.
Of course.
And then he was coerced into jobs by the military for the next two.
Mm-hmm.
And in the fourth one, he's just trying to run a riverboat, really, and not
get involved
too much. Yeah, not get involved, but that doesn't go to plan. And
no,
he decides just to kill everyone.
So Rambo 5, The Last Blood, will hit our cinema screens probably in the summer.
I think September, but
September time, yeah. And today, talking of hobos and bums, we had a nice little trip, didn't we, to Hastings on the south coast. We saw a few of those, didn't we? And we were ventured into a rather empty HMV store. Did you notice there wasn't many people in there?
There wasn't a lot of stock either. It
There wasn't a lot of stock. No, there was some empty racks, and we spent some time looking at the TV box sets. Couple of mine that I've already got shot out in front of me, the Fringe box set, the Battlestar Galactica one. But there are some box sets, that show, incomplete TV shows, don't there? I mean, there's like obviously Game of Thrones series. The last series isn't available there, so why buy that box set? And if they're not available on Blu-ray or DVD, you're just gonna have to wait, aren't you? Were there any there that you would definitely pick up? So if you walked into an HMV store with, say, £300 and had a good old spending spree, what would you pick up?
Well, your V box set and your Battlestar Galactica box set, I'd have them. I'd definitely get them.
Sure, you'd enjoy those. You would enjoy them.
And although you've repeatedly told me it's dreadful, I'd like Buck Rogers just because, even if it's dreadful, I want it on my shelf.
Yeah, Series 1, Series 1 I would definitely recommend. It's Buck Rogers. Series 2, it's where, the actor who played Buck Rogers decided he was going to have a little bit more...
Jill Gerard, or whatever his name is.
Yes, he was going to have a little bit more interaction with the script and the storyline, and it doesn't go so well. But, good luck with that.
I think the problem with a lot of these TV shows is, like, ones that I'm going to mention, I saw them once as a kid, before I had a video or anything, and I watched these episodes once and remember them with massive fondness.
Oh, yeah.
But I've not seen them for 40 years. Could be absolutely terrible.
30 years later, I have watched them, and I remember them vividly as a kid, and I couldn't wait to get them. And then when I finally did, they weren't quite as I remembered them. And I think it wasn't so much the stories or anything. It was just, I just felt they hadn't stood up so well. Like Battle Beyond the Stars. Like, I think...
Don't you dare diss my Battle Beyond the Stars.
Well, I loved that film, but it didn't stand up as well. And I think Battlestar Galactica stood up much better because of the fact that the special effects and the crew were from Lucas, and so there was a lot of Star Warsiness to them.
Let's be fair, the 1933 King Kong, the effects don't stand up.
Man.
But it's an amazing film, so I don't think you need over-reliance on the quality special effects.
But,
that worried me.
I would say that actually that the Buck Rogers has probably got as much cheese as a Baby Bell factory, quite frankly.
But it's also got a lot of lycra and low-cut tops.
There are some of that. Yeah, there is some bikini action. So if you went into a HMV store with £300, what would you pick up?
Well, as I said, V and Battlestar Galactica, Buck Rogers.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I would also want the Fringe because I love that.
That was 50. Yeah.
The X-Files box set, I'd like that.
Nice. So how many series is that? Is that 7?
There's more than that. There's a lot of them. I mean, there's a few series in the middle where David Duchovny left that I could quite happily never watch.
Right.
But maybe the early series are the best, for the Monster of the Week and things like that.
Yeah, great.
Like Fringe, I'd definitely get that. And then I'd like Blake 7.
Yeah, that Blake 7 box set was wonderful. What was the price on that? Can you remember?
No, I tried not to look because it just made me sad that I couldn't get them.
Yeah.
True Blood. I'd quite like the box set of True Blood because I really enjoyed that.
Had you seen this already before, True Blood?
Oh yeah, I've seen True Blood. I love True Blood. It's a brilliant program. And then I saw the Dexter box set as well.
Right.
Which Dexter's got one of those endings which ruins everything. So if I just watched it all but missed the last 4 episodes, maybe I'd really enjoy it. Because Dexter does some things that are not Dextery. And again, the Game of Thrones, but there's no one buying Game of Thrones yet because season 8's not out. So I'll wait for that. For sure.
And what about a TV show called Falling Skies? Did you ever see that?
No, didn't watch that.
Okay. Another alien invasion kind of scenario. Pretty good. Not bad, mate. I mean, you're pretty much there stuck in the 80s, aren't you, with a little bit
Well, again, I mean, there's others that I didn't see today, but, Manimal. I love Manimal, and it's probably dreadful.
Yeah, probably.
I remember watching a TV show called Bring 'Em Back Alive, that I'm the only person in the world who remembers, but I loved it. I managed to watch the pilot episode on YouTube a few weeks ago, and I'd still really enjoyed it. And there was another one called Cover Up, which was about
cover-ups,
undercover agent, being a male model. The first series starred John Eric Hexton, who inadvertently killed himself.
In real life,
the
take it.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he Russian roulette, I believe.
Oh, really? It's a game.
Always a bright move, isn't it? And then the next one, I think his name was Anthony Hamilton, possibly. He was in line to be James Bond at some point, but then they disapproved of his lifestyle, so they decided not to. But I thoroughly enjoyed those, and I've never seen either of those available. So if anyone is listening who has the rights to that, if they could just publish those for me, I'd be very happy.
You never know. Well, I mean, there were some box sets there that were very dubious, and we did think, didn't we? Who would buy that? Can you remember some of those? I mean, like the Terry and June box set. Now, if you're from the UK, you'd know who Terry and June are. Yeah, I don't think you'd buy that, would you? Would you?
But there was also It Ain't Half Hot Mum and things like that. I don't know. Depends how much of a completist you are. My brother would buy it. You know, my brother Simon, he would buy Terry and June and It Ain't Half Hot Mum and, you know, Love Thy Neighbour, and he would buy all of that kind of 70s, I don't know, middle class white English sitcoms, because apparently in the 70s that's all we were.
Yeah, that's
we
right.
Were racist.
Uh-huh.
It Ain't Half Hot Mum would nowadays. You look at that and you think, really?
Oh, yeah. I don't think that would pass the.
I don't even think
PC
they would make
brain,
hello these days.
No, they wouldn't, would they? That would, yeah, exactly, yeah. So not a bad little. You probably spent your £300 wisely there, I would have thought.
I think I've probably gone to about £500 if I'd have, and that's just the TV box sets. That's before we got into all the other things.
So if you're, I mean, you've got a few DVDs and Blu-rays, I'm sure, DVDs, haven't you?
I'm tucked away somewhere. Yes, I do.
Yeah. So out of those films you've got, are your top 10 movies in your collection?
Well, my top 10 movies is always in a state of flux. It's a fluid thing, because I can never make up my mind. You know, there's so many movies that I love and I watch on repeat, and I've seen hundreds of times, that
would always make your top 10, always.
They would always make my top 10 if I could have about 100 movies in my top 10, definitely.
Well, that's not possible because there's only 10 of them. So, in that 10, what kind of is the foundation of it? What's the foundation of your... And where do you struggle? Because you were saying to me today, you're struggling when you were asked by your son to sort of do your top 10, you were really struggling with getting 10 films in there that were solid. There was always, as you say, there was a state of flux with what would come in and what would go out. I mean, it's easy to make a 20 list, it's even make a 30 list is not a problem, but really narrowing it down to your best and favourite films, being 10 of them is difficult.
Well, I think the problem with your top 10 list is that it depends what you're in the mood for. Because Star Wars is always going to be in everyone's, well, of people of our ilk, going to be in our top 10. But just because it's your favourite movie doesn't mean that's always the one you put on. Because sometimes you'll think, you know what, I fancy a comedy, or I fancy a horror, or, you know, an action thing. So it's very, very hard. I mean, looking at my list, I've got a list of 30 odd where I'm trying to narrow it down. I would have to say that most of them are older rather than younger.
Right.
I'm trying to find the most modern one on my list, and it's probably of my list of 30 odd, it's probably Jurassic World.
Right, yep.
If I'm not including Star Wars movies, because they're, you know, among the best movies ever. I'm trying to... Kong Skull Island I managed to sneak in there because I enjoy that. That's probably my most recent in my list of really good movies. But you know,
so let's start with number one. So one film that would definitely be in your top 10 is
Princess Bride.
Right. Number 2.
Again, if we're just including all-encompassing Star Wars, that's just a given.
Now, which one of those would that be out of all of them? If you could pick one.
If I could only pick one.
You can only pick one.
What to watch?
No, that's going to be in your top 10, no matter what.
If I could only pick one, I would have to be Return of the Jedi.
Okay. Now your number 3 movie. Come on.
Depends what I'm in the mood for. You see? If I'm in the mood for a horror, I would probably... The Thing would be one of them.
Okay. That's 4.
Well, it's not, because if I'm not in the mood to watch The Thing, then it can't be in my top 10.
Well, you've got to have a top 10. I mean, it doesn't matter. You're encompassing all genres to make your top 10.
I've started trying to do a top 10 list, and I'll read you some of them out.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Well, I've got Stand By Me is one of them.
Okay.
I've got an app on my phone and on my tablet here, and I put all my favourite in there to start whittling it down. I've got Clash of the Titans, because I love stop motion, so there's loads of stop motion ones in there. There'd be Valley of Guanji.
You can only have one.
Well, I did, but I'm not going to pick with you. This is what I mean with my ever in flux top 10. I could do a top 10 of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. I could do a top 10 of martial arts movies and horror movies, but ones that would be the best movies ever. No, I don't know.
See,
You do yours. Go on.
Right, so mine
yours are definitive, aren't they?
Yeah, they are, and they don't really change at all. So my favourite movie of all time is Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. It was obviously just known as Star Wars, but that is it. That's my number 1 film. My number 2 film is Blade Runner. My number 3 film is Empire Strikes Back. Number 4 film is Return of the Jedi. There's Alien, then Dread, Batman: The Dark Knight, Star Wars Rogue One, and this is where it starts getting tricky for me. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now my last 2 that's where it's tricky, because that's where I get my sort of fluxy, because I would normally put in, well, I've got let's say E.T., absolute classic. Purple Rain, I was a big Prince fan. That film was vitally important to me. So would that be my 10? I would say yes, it would. That would be my definitive 10. Sometimes Close Encounters beats E.T., even though, because it's a classic, and that might make my number 11. Sometimes it was swapped with number 10. But I would say that's pretty much mine, So going through it again: A New Hope, Blade Runner, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Alien, Dread, The Dark Knight, Rogue One, E.T. and Purple Rain. Now, then we start going into the next 10, and I'd have Solo in there, or I'd have Watchmen, Revenge of the Sith, Force Awakens, Looper, Dark Knight Rises, Batman Begins, Interstellar, Guardians of the Galaxy, Prometheus and Moon. But it's not, it's 10. So I've given you my 10. So that, there you go. There's mine.
I've got Terminator, I've got
I've
got Nightmare on Elm Street, I've got Die Hard, I've got Poltergeist, I've got They Live, Mad Max 2, The Fly, Universal Soldier, Escape from New York, Jason the Argonauts, Evil Dead 2, Halloween, Bloodsport, Kickboxer, Predator, Aliens, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, Jurassic Park. George is always going to be in my top 10. Alien, RoboCop, Starship Troopers, Commando. Yeah, I'm struggling somewhat.
You are indeed. I mean, certainly for me, the TV shows wise, I mean, when we were in HMV, I saw some of mine that I've already got, so I could definitely kick them off. But, I'm still waiting for the release of the last Game of Thrones series. Lucifer Series 4 is just released on Netflix. And until that finishes, what's the point in buying the next one unless I've got them individually.
Again, that's what Andy was saying, that he liked to binge watch something when it's finished. And I think with a lot of TV shows, people have been buying Supernatural for 17 years and now going to have this massive box set of a finale. And, until something's finished, there's no point buying a box set. Because you've got 8 years ago when they were first released Game of Thrones, the covers would look different to the ones that are out now. That freaked me right out.
That's what's happened to me today, wasn't it? When we went in there, I said, "Well, there's no point." You know what? If they bring it out in the packaging that I've just been buying, great. But if it comes out in this new white packaging, that's going to do my OCD no good.
Very clever marketing, though, because every time they do that, OCD nerds like us go, now I've got to buy everything all over again.
That's right. Yeah, and maybe upscale into Blu-ray. Fringe is definitely a box set that I absolutely adore, and I need to rewatch them again at some point. Spaced, the Nick Pegg and
I have the box set.
Nick Frost and Simon Pegg. Yep. Yeah.
I have the box set, but I haven't watched it all yet.
Well worth it, mate. Well worth it. The Batman 66 TV series. Now, I wouldn't recommend getting them in Blu-ray because they're a bit too clean. Do you know what I mean? For a show that's that old, probably best to keep that on DVD, I would have thought.
Yeah, again, see, with the Batman, I don't know, the Batman we watched, we watched it on as a repeat when we were children, didn't we?
Yeah.
I know, I did thoroughly enjoy that.
They're amazing, mate. And they are cheesy and corny as anything, but the fact is it's Batman and it's great, and Adam West and Burt Ward shine, and of course we know that there's the fantastic Joker and Riddler and Penguin in that, and they are brilliant. Thunderbirds, the Jerry Anderson series, I've got that on as a DVD box set, and the Young Ones, of course, which you can never not stick.
I have the Young Ones, so I couldn't put that on my list because the Young Ones is the funniest TV show ever, probably. Probably.
It was indeed. So, you've been moving on. You have been busy watching quite a lot of stuff. You've been to the cinema, haven't you? So
I have.
You put a review on our Facebook group for Godzilla,
King of the Monsters.
Give us your little review of that film.
Well, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was better than the 2014 Godzilla movie. Not as good as Kong, because I thought Kong Skull Island was really, really good. There's a lot more monsters beating each other up and destroying cities all the way through it. Got Charles Dance and Millie Bobby Brown, so they're both brilliant. I like them. It's a movie you should watch. I don't really know how they're going to have a battle between Kong and Godzilla, because even if Kong was the same size as Godzilla's nuclear and, he has some wicked halitosis that can take out most things.
Yeah.
So, and, King Kong is a really big, strong monkey at the end of the day.
The reviews I've seen have said, that obviously the Godzilla by Gareth was pretty good, but didn't contain enough Godzilla. In this film, you get plenty of it, plenty of action.
I've read a lot of mixed reviews, and I think the positive reviews are from people who just want to go and enjoy a movie. I think the problem with a lot of the movie critics is, they've studied it at uni and they know the ins and outs of every kind of way to make a movie and the cinematography, and they know more about narrative than anyone else. But sometimes you just want to go and watch monsters beat each other up and just enjoy it for what it is. I think if you're into kaiju movies and, just silly fun, it's going to be fine. If you're more into La La Land and, The Shape of Water, then this is probably not for you.
Certainly, I've heard that, from reviewers that the script is not great. There's not a lot of sort of backstory to some of the characters. But do you need that with a film like this?
Well, no, because they are the bit players of a movie that's starring Godzilla.
Exactly.
No,
So what else has been dazzling your eyes?
Well, I watched Rim of the World with the children the other day,
Yeah.
a new Netflix movie,
Yeah.
which was superb.
Wasn't it?
It was kind of like, almost like the Goonies meets Independence Day.
Yeah, meets a little bit of Stranger Things.
Yeah, it was really, really good, and I thought I'd enjoy it. The children absolutely loved it. Freddie and Lana both actually loved it, but I found myself enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. I would happily have watched that without the children and still enjoyed it just as much.
I watched it without any children, and I absolutely loved it. And I immediately went onto our Facebook group and gave my very quick sort of thoughts and review on it, because I really, really loved the way it looked. I loved the child actors in it. The cast was fantastic. So good. I thought the action was good where it needed the action. I don't think it sort of dropped in pace too much.
No, I think the whole of it was very, very good. I'd recommend it, definitely.
So it's Rim of the World on Netflix. Highly advised and highly recommended by the two of us for sure. What else have you done?
Well, I went a bit old school. I watched Crocodile Dundee the other day for the first time in a long time.
Did you?
And I still love it.
Oh.
It was, I mean, some of the humour may have dated slightly, but it was still good fun. I mean, Paul Hogan is absolutely charming all the way through it. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, all over again. I remember buying the video when it first came out from Woolworths in Chatham. I used to go down there every week. I used to walk down to Chatham from Raynham with my wages on my day off and buy a video every week and then watch it constantly for a week. And that week, I remember when that first came out, saying to the girl behind the till, God, I bet you sold loads of these. And she really couldn't have cared less about the movie because she went, no, really? And that was it. And that stuck with me for 30 years, thinking, well, you don't care about movies. I don't understand you. But I really enjoyed it. All the way through, it's fun. The second one wasn't as good, and I've not even bothered with the third one. But, yeah, that still really, really good. And if you're not seen it, watch it again. It's great fun.
Paul Hogan met the love of his life, didn't he, on that film? Linda somebody, wasn't it?
Yeah, she didn't meet her, though, because she left it.
Oh, did she? Oh, well.
Yeah.
Never mind.
She changed her mind in the end. But the thing about what's funny is, I remember watching it when it first came out in the 88 or whatever it was, and thinking, oh, he's so old. I'm a lot older than he was when he made that movie now.
It's just sad.
I look at these things, I remember him being old, and then looking at thinking, oh, he looks quite sprightly. He's a lot younger than me, which is really disappointing.
So you watching anything else retro?
I remember when, back in the day, when me and Steve used to hire for a week. We'd walk in, we didn't drive then. We walked down to the video shop he lives on a farm in Sticks, and it was a good few miles video shop. And back in those days, if you went to a video shop and the video you wanted wasn't in, you kind of had to come back another time, or so you'd get whatever was there. And we got a movie called Razorback, because there was nothing we'd heard of in, and we watched that on loop for a week. And I remember for that week that we watched it, thinking it was brilliant, and it's about a giant razorback in the Australian outback, basically eating people. And it's very much a movie of its time.
Is this an Australian movie? Is this
Australian?
Yeah.
It was fun, but I wouldn't have said that it's a classic. If you don't watch Razorback, it's not a problem. It was made by, I can't remember the guy's name. He did a few Duran Duran videos, because Duran Duran featured on the soundtrack.
Oh, he did that? Right.
Yeah, and I think he also made Highlander.
Ah, okay.
And it's that kind of stylistic. I mentioned Highlander a few weeks ago, saying it's not dated that well, I didn't think. So, again, I enjoyed it more for the nostalgia than the quality of the movie, I would say.
Right.
I'd still buy it on DVD if I saw it, just because I'm a hoarder, I suppose.
How did you watch this film? How did you watch this film anyway?
I watched it on an app.
Right.
That is
not entirely legal.
No, but I've looked for it constantly on. I've got Amazon Prime, I've got Netflix, and I've got a Cineworld card. I'm fully paid up. I don't feel too bad.
And it's not on those.
And it's not on anything, and I've not seen. And I regularly search for it, and it just so happened that I looked on Showbox, the app that I looked on, and it was there. I was like, you know what, I will watch that. But yeah, if I could get a DVD of it, I probably would, just for a completist thing.
Mm-hmm.
I also watched John Wick 2.
Fantastic.
Because I'd seen John Wick 3 the week before.
And we now have news that John Wick 4 is going to go into production.
It has to. Haven't seen John Wick 3. John Wick 4 has to be in production. It's got some big boots to fill, though, because John Wick 3 is brilliant. But I enjoyed John Wick 2 more than I remembered enjoying it the first time I watched it. I remember thinking it's not as good as the first one, but actually it was really good. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I've also watched Shaun of the Dead this week.
So have I. We should have done a watch along, shouldn't we?
I watched that very regularly. I adore that, but that's always in my top 10 of movies. I love that film. I can't fault it.
It is difficult to fault, isn't it? It is difficult to fault. It has the right blend of horror, humour, romance. It's got a bit of everything. It's got a little.
I think the thing that I like
is humour, I think, which is what I think it's all about, isn't it?
I like the fact that it's so clever,
with
the nods everywhere, all across the screen, constantly to classic horror movies.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I like that about it. I love an Easter egg in a movie, so I thoroughly enjoyed that. I watched Force Awakens this week because I regularly watch that, and
I said I did as well. I watched it on I watched the 3D box set, which contains the J.J. Abrams commentary, which really is fantastic. So you again, like myself, you get through this film, and there is a lot of sadness there, isn't there? Which still makes you think, wouldn't it have been wonderful if the three of them, Luke, Leia, and Han, and Chewie as well, all got together? But alas, it wasn't.
Yeah, I think that every time you carry on the screen now, you're going to be a little bit like, but that is the way things are. I also watched Pet Sematary this week.
Oh right, okay. So this is the new version, not the original one.
Yeah, the new version. I enjoyed it again more than I thought I would. It's not.
It's not brain taxing, is it? That's sure. Yeah.
No, but it's got its moments where you kind of go, ooh. It's a bit twisted, turning, and yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Cool.
A lot of Easter eggs to Stephen King movies in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of thing where a nerd like you or I, maybe not you because it's scary movies.
I do like scary movies. They have to be slightly psychological.
I watch them.
Well, one movie that you haven't seen that's a Stephen King film, well, based on a Stephen King novel, is The Shining. You still yet to have watched that?
No, but I have got it. I will watch it. I've got it recorded, but it's just one of the movies where I'm worried to watch it because everyone's telling me to watch it, and it's getting all hyped up, and then I'm going to watch it and go, ugh.
I think you might. I think you might, though. I think you're probably best to stay away from it because I think you might well do. I mean, we've discussed this today with the films Hereditary and The Babadook, and I said, they're psychological horrors, and if it's not your bag, then The Shining probably isn't for you.
Yeah, I like my horror to be a little bit more horrific.
In your face. Yeah.
I mean, I don't like Paranormal Activity or any of those. They're just not scary, and I'm trying. The last movie that I thought that's a really good horror movie and it's quite scary, was the new Halloween movie from last year. That was really, really good. I couldn't recommend that enough.
Yeah, I'm still yet to. Oh, I have seen it. I think I have
You'd
seen.
know if you had.
I don't know. I rewatched the original. That's right. I rewatched the original in order to watch this, and it disturbed me. So I'm yet to have watched it. So on a nice hot sunny summer's day, when it's not dark and I'm comfortable, I shall stick it on.
It is really, really good. It's the perfect sequel to the original one. It ignores all the other ones and just goes straight to that, and it's genuinely quite frightening.
Well, it's something still that I've got to get around to watch. Have you got anything else on your list that you've watched this week?
Well, I've been watching under the recommendation of Ian when he was on the show, a Fast and Furious movie.
Ah, right.
I've
yes.
been watching Fast and Furious 8. I've been watching it in 5-minute increments because I've been watching it to clean my teeth. I've set myself a little 5-minute timer, put my little headphones in, I sit there and I'll watch that while I'm cleaning my teeth. So I watch 10 minutes of it a day. Most movies take me about a week to watch. The other one I watched before that was a movie called Monster Hunter on Amazon, which I really cannot recommend at all. It's terrible. And I'd almost managed to block that out of my mind. It's only remembering that I watch movies while I clean my teeth, while I'm waiting for the alarm to go off.
Well, you do something which I was quite surprised at, because I actually do the same thing, which is put a movie on your phone and listen to it while you're driving.
Yeah, I love doing that.
Yeah, I do that a lot with obviously Star Wars films, because you know the script, you know what's happening, and it's just very comforting. I find it personally. I
find that you get more from a movie if
you get your own kind of visual picture. You're visualizing what's going on, don't you? A bit like an audio.
Yeah. It's like having an audio play or something like that. You can imagine it.
So you said you listened to Jaws in the car.
Yeah, I listen to Jaws regularly in the car. Yeah, I like that. If I'm all out of audio books,
does that work as an audio? Only
I think
kind of
because I know Jaws so well, and in my mind, it's one of the most perfect films ever. I get so much out of it every time I listen to it. It's an incredible. Even when I watch it, every now and again, I will pick up something new because I'm looking at every part of the screen, because I don't need to look at the actors. I've seen them hundreds and hundreds of times, so I'm looking at little things, around the set, and noticing new things, which a movie that's that old, 40-odd years old, it's pretty good that I can still notice things.
Yeah, that's quite incredible, isn't it?
And you're not a fan of Jaws, are you?
Not really, no. I'm not a great fan of Jurassic Park and the Jurassic World films. I've watched them, I've enjoyed them, but I'm not a fan of them. Mainly because I am such a sci-fi buff, and fantasy, so I kind of like laser beams, laser swords, laser guns, lots of spaceships. I kind of like that kind of thing for me. And if it's, if it's got a little bit of weirdness in it, like Annihilation with Natalie Portman, or Ex Machina, those kind of, or even Moon, for example, I love that kind of stuff. But I tend to sort of stay away from. Yeah, I've not really enjoyed that, or the Sharknadoes, or whatever the other.
Sharknado is just a bit of silly fun.
Yeah,
Jaws is a magnificently acted and made film.
What's the other ones? Snakes on a Plane or something, was it?
Snakes on a Plane was made just because they thought it was a fun title. Yeah,
and then was the other one, Anaconda.
Well, Anaconda 2, Hunt for the Blood Orchid, is one of my favourite movies. I love it. I absolutely love it. I like monster movies. I grew up, again, watching Valley of Guangxi and The Land That Time Forgotten, Million Years BC and all of that kind of stuff. So any kind of monster, Valley of Guangxi was cowboys versus dinosaurs. What's not to love about that as a kid
Well,
growing up?
indeed. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm trying to sort of think if there's anything on my list that I would consider like monstery apart from the Godzilla movie, the Gareth Edwards one, and perhaps the original King Kong, which Andy switched me back onto because it was in his top 10 and I rewatched it and absolutely adored that. But probably not. But, I'm going to just swing this forward just a little bit because we've had the wonderful trailer for Swamp Thing. Have you seen the trailer?
I've seen the trailer for Swamp Thing. I cannot convince my son that Swamp Thing isn't the bad guy.
Right. That's going to take some going through, but I'm sure he will get it.
I think the first it's a TV series, isn't it?
It is. This is the latest addition to the DC universe,
I
which
think
already
the first episode is out there.
Ah, well, it might well be.
You can find it if you look.
Carefully.
I haven't watched it, but maybe I will this week and see what I think of it.
Well, this. We've obviously got Titans and Doom Patrol and Young Justice Outsiders as well. Is Swamp Thing we've got Mark Verheiden from Falling Skies and the Conjuring movies, Gary Doberman. These have produced this film. We've got Gotham's Crystal Reed plays Abby Arcane, who returns home to Homer in Louisiana to investigate a deadly swamp-borne virus, where she develops a bond with the scientist Alec Holland, played by Andy Bean. And after Holland tragically dies, Arcane discovers the mysteries of the swamp and that Holland may not be dead after all. Underworld's Len Wiseman directs the pilot as Swamp Thing, and it actually debuted on Friday, May 31st on DC Universe. So yes, it's already out there. Have you got anything else that you've watched this week, or before I go into some other stuff?
I think my list of there's 10 movies I've watched this week. I've done all right. I've put my work in. And also I watch Princess Bride as well because that's on Netflix and I love it.
Well, I've been checking out a couple of things. I watched Rim of the World, absolutely adored that. I rewatched Shaun of the Dead, as I said, and also Force Awakens. Has been about it pretty much. I like a bit of Formula One, so I watched last week's Grand Prix in Monte Carlo. But I've been watching, after Game of Thrones is finished, HBO's 5-part miniseries Chernobyl. This has quietly crept up over the last few months as one of the best and most terrifying shows of the year. And it's like a real-life horror story put on display with an invisible toxic enemy at the forefront of the fear. Chernobyl dramatizes the Soviet nuclear power plant catastrophe from 1986. Can you believe that was 1986? And features standout performances from Jared Harris and Stellan Skarsgård and Emily Watson. The real star of this story, though, mate, is the paralyzing and sickening horror of the disaster itself and the fact that most everyone involved in fixing the meltdown lonely resigned themselves to an early grave, whether their deaths were quick or slow. And past episodes of Chernobyl are now available if you've got HBO or Geo or HBO Now and Amazon. You can get that with the HBO add-on, I think. And the finale airs on June 3rd on HBO. It's really, really good. I absolutely loved it, mate. It was recommended by a fellow listener and member of our group and Patreon, and I absolutely loved it. Something else which is very addictive and brutal.
I didn't enjoy it.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
It was okay.
Yeah.
But it wasn't outstanding. I know that it's supposed to be the best TV show of all time.
What's wrong?
The Wire.
All right. Yeah.
I didn't like that either. So.
Right. Well, that's fair enough. You can't like everything.
But
right, so...
it wasn't dreadful by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
But
I found it really chilling. I did, and I really liked it.
It's scary to think that we were on the verge of an horrendous catastrophe. But what's scarier is we haven't learned any lessons from it, and we're still burning nuclear fuel all over the place.
Yeah, building them and sticking them in places where there are, near water, obviously. A
on
Fukushima,
Volcanic Island, where
stuff like that, where
Godzilla might come from.
exactly all those nuclear tests in the Pacific, and we still haven't got Godzilla. It's
But-
mad, isn't it?
But the scariest thing about Chernobyl for me is the fact that we've learned nothing from the fact that we nearly wiped out most of Europe.
Indeed.
We've learned nothing. So if there's anything scary about that, it's the fact that we are so stupid that we haven't come up with a better way of doing things.
I'm sure that there is as well. The addictively bleak and brutal anthology series Black Mirror returns in a week. I don't know if you've seen Black Mirror.
Love Black Mirror.
Great. Well, you're going to love this because we've got 3 new episodes about the terrible trappings of the hypothetical future technology and how they measly merge with our own damaged psyches. The new chapters feature the likes of Miley Cyrus, Sleepy Hollow's Nicole Bahari, and Topher Grace, and the MCU's Anthony Mackie. All previous episodes of Black Mirror can be streamed on Netflix, and definitely worth a look if you haven't already seen it. I would definitely recommend it because I think it's superb stuff. What else?
Totally agree. They're very rarely a bad episode of Black Mirror, and they are usually the bleakest thing you'll watch that week.
Yeah, easily. Something a little bit lighter and something that's been around for a long time is Star Trek. And don't forget Star Trek Discovery, which isn't currently airing, but both seasons can be watched over on CBS, or you can watch it obviously on Netflix. And whether you're a diehard Trekkie or a casual fan, Discovery is a superb slice of daring, dazzling sci-fi that honours the past while also carrying the torch into the future. It's got superb special effects, mate, and they're often better than what you see in most movies. Great cast. Discovery is less of sort of Planet of the Week series and more of a fully serialized stop the universe from exploding saga, which is what I really love about it. It involves lots of experimental science, which is obviously in the vessel that winds up stumbling into saving the galaxy time and time again. It's a stellar mix of old and new Star Trek, which is why I love it. And of course, we've got the new Picard Star Trek show coming very soon. Have you checked that out at all?
I tried watching Discovery. I got a few episodes in, and I kind of thought, look, if I'm not enjoying it, there's other things I can watch. It didn't gel with me. I liked old-fashioned looking Klingons because I'm an old-fashioned guy. And yeah, it didn't gel with me. I know the cast is superb. I mean, I love everyone who's in it. It just didn't gel with me. I'm wrong, probably.
Tell you what I love about it is it looks great on my TV. It just looks good. It's all bright and it's very sharp, and it's got full HD, which is wonderful. Yeah, it's got a lot of money thrown at it, which always makes it look fab. Yeah, I really liked it. Really like it a lot. Looking forward to the next series. One way that we've been watching or listening to a lot of our music is through Apple iTunes. Now, nearly 2 decades after launching iTunes and changing music retail forever, there's going to be a new iPod, which I don't know if we really need a new iPod because we've got our phones these days. But if you want something that just holds music and just holds film, then they're bringing out a new one, which will be great. But it looks like Apple is finally shutting down the digital retailer. During the software keynote at next week's annual Worldwide Developers Conference in California, Apple is going to replace iTunes with a standalone music, television, and podcast apps. Now, this move has been rumored for years, and it will align Apple's media strategy across the board. iPhones and iPads obviously have already offer separate music, TV, and podcast apps in lieu of the centralized iTunes app that lives on most Macs and MacBooks. And anyway, the new music app is expected to offer some of the functionalities that iTunes currently does, such as purchasing songs and syncing phones, but just with a bit more of a polished interface. So that I'm not sure about, to be honest. It sounds confusing. I'm sure it's not, because the way Apple does things is often very simplistic. But You know when you just get really used to something, it becomes like your friend, and you're using it on a daily basis, and they go, "We're changing it," and you're like, "No, what are you doing?" I think there's been a lot.
I would
a lot
still
of that.
buy CDs.
Yeah,
I've never owned any kind of digital stuff, and you say I've been around 20 years. It just shows how behind the times I am.
yeah. Well, no, the problem is that when you put all your eggs in a basket digitally and things go wrong, you have no access to it. Over the last week, I decided to sort of get rid of some stuff off my phone. So I decided just to upload all my photos to iCloud. And then of course you need them. And then you got to download them, and of course you can't because of your data and that kind of stuff. And you think, damn, why did I do that? I had something like 9,000 pictures on my phone, and suddenly they're all up on the servers, and I've got no access to them. I don't know. I do buy films digitally via iTunes, and I like to be able to take them anywhere. And of course, these days you don't get the ultraviolet little leaflet in your Blu-ray or DVD box like you used to. Because they've shut.
What was that? I never even figured that out.
Oh, okay. So not all of them, but some offered you watch anywhere code. So you'd put this code, you'd go onto the website, you put the code in, and you'd get a digital copy of that in your library, and you can download that film onto your computer, or you can put it onto your phone via the app. Flickster was one of those, and they're shutting that whole service down, which means that you won't be able to buy a DVD with a code, so you get a digital copy of the film as well as the DVD or the Blu-ray anymore. So you'll have
what happened to all these digital copies that were floating around in the ether?
They'll still be sitting on the server, but you won't be able to buy any more films with a digital code to then have a digital copy of that film. So you have a duplicate. So it was quite nice because you would have basically two copies of the same film, one digitally, one obviously as a hard copy that you can watch at home, and not doing that anymore. So currently my films are still in Flickster, which was the little app where it kept the films. I think Warner Brothers had their own one as well. It's called Ultraviolet. Some of those codes, sometimes if you go into a second-hand shop like CEX, you buy the film and there'll be a little leaflet inside the box and with the code on it, and you think, oh great, I've got a digital copy, but of course they've already redeemed the code, so it was gone. But yeah, that's
you got stuff in a box in CEX. I never even had the instructions for a computer game on it.
Well, I'm a bit picky, mate, because sometimes that's one of the things that I look for, whether the code's been redeemed. So I'm in the shop, I've seen the leaflet, I've put the code into my phone, bingo, I've got the film, and I thought, hang on, do I need to buy the film now? And then after a while, I think CEX started taking those leaflets out because people weren't doing that. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that they've been very naughty about, actually, is that they have been photocopying the covers. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but, if you're searching on Blu-rays, you'll open up the box and you'll see that it's a photocopy. And it says, this is not the original cover. Unfortunately, the original cover has been lost or whatever it is. And you're like, you shouldn't really be copying it. That's copyright. But they have been. And they've been done for that when it comes to computer game instructions as well. The instructions are missing when someone goes and does a trade-in. And then they just download them off the internet and copy them and do a print off. Which is
I don't have a problem with that because I kind of think that it'll help them help.
Well, it would do, but it does infringe copyright there. But yeah, so that's that. So good old iTunes is saying goodbye.
And I'm so behind the times. 20 years, and it had no impact on my life at all. Because I still buy DVDs,
and I'm still buying VHS. I don't know when I'm going to get around to watching some of those, but I did say to you guys, that I watched. I think on the last podcast that I'd watched E.T. on VHS, which was pretty amazing, actually.
Maybe you've managed to find that VHS player.
Yeah, well, we've got two. We have one in the loft, which is brand new, and when my mum bought one out of Sainsbury's, I think they were like 10 quid, maybe 15 quid. These Panasonic VHS players, they were just getting rid of them because obviously it was really old stock. So got one just in case that one broke down. So all good.
Had you connected to your telly?
That's very tricky. We've had to find I mean, you know, we've got a TV with a SCART socket. It's a 720p TV, so we can watch them on that. But we've got also a plug where it goes into SCART and then goes into straight HDMI. So you're not getting full digital from that, but it's just a way of watching that film with a TV that doesn't have a SCART socket. And that's the only way we can do it, unfortunately.
Fair enough, though.
It's fair enough. It's the same thing with a lot of, you know, a lot of old consoles. The plugs are no longer, you know, going to be able to fit.
That, or you have to get one of them great big tellies that are big as a coffin.
Yeah. I mean, I remember buying from a client. He said, "Oh, do you want to buy our old TV?" And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh, it's like 36 inch." I'm like, "Oh, wow, fantastic!" It was about 36 inches round the back as well.
Yeah,
massive, great thing. And you know, it took 3 of us to take it out of her house. This TV, it was so heavy. And then you realise you need such a huge amount of space, and it can only go in a corner.
Yeah,
you know, because of the angle and everything, you know. Because of the back.
I was watching something the other day, and someone saying, "Oh, that's the front of the TV. I don't know where the rest of it's gone." I can't remember what it was I was watching. But yeah, because screens nowadays, your TV is just the front part of what used to be your telly, isn't it? So.
That's right, yeah, exactly. I mean, they're like incredibly thin now. I mean, I go into PC World occasionally and go and check them out, and I'm like, oh my god, look how thin that TV is. You just wonder if it's going to make it home, you know, on the journey home without breaking. Yeah, I don't know. The good old days were good old days, but you know, some parts of it you just think, yeah, I don't think I'd want that tech now.
No, but you know, TV repairmen wish you did, because you used to have TV repairmen come around and fix your telly.
Indeed.
Remember that?
Yeah, and I mean, you said you used to rent your TV. I never thought of anything so.
Yeah, radio rentals.
They're so ridiculous renting a telly, but of course, back then they were expensive.
Remember the adverts should have gone to
radio rentals. Indeed, yeah. Now, some of these MIDI systems, I mean, you know, hi-fi systems that we used to have.
Mm.
I mean, I was always a separates kind of guy. I remember having Akai and Pioneer, and Marantz was a big manufacturer that I absolutely loved. And I always bought separates from places like Richer Sounds, and I would talk to those experts in there and say, look, this is what I've already got. And this is the turntable I have. And then they'd recommend the speakers to go with the amp. And they'd say, oh, you need these leads. And I loved building them up. But all my friends used to buy these big MIDI systems. Did you have one of those?
Yeah, I mean, you know,
turntable on the top.
Turntable on the top.
Later
on, it got a bit posh, and I got a CD player with one as well. But I would just buy the cheapest because I lived with my parents and I could never turn up too loud anyway. So I didn't ever see the point in having 100-watt speakers when you can listen to stuff at about 5 watts. Before your mum knocked on the door, go, turn that rubbish down.
Yeah, get that off.
What they're saying. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. She wasn't actually from Monty Python, but suddenly she just sounded like it.
And your name's not Brian.
The Life of Brian, a very naughty boy. So, yeah. Sorry, Mum.
That's what headphones are for, mate. They think obviously. Well, I think maybe my parents thought I was doing something else because I was so quiet, but I was often just put the headphones on. Yeah, so we went from MIDI systems to mini systems, and we had those little mini hi-fis, really tiny little things. Obviously, not with a turntable, but you did get a CD player, you got a digital tuner, maybe you got a graphic equalizer, maybe you got a tape deck, but it was pretty basic.
If you get a posh one, you had a tape deck that would turn the tape round when it got.
Oh
to
yeah,
the
auto reverse.
That was posh.
Oh yeah, always had auto reverse. I had an Akai PJ33. This was like a mini ghetto blaster. It had 4 speakers on it, and it had a subwoofer at the back. It was a tiny
subwoofer to me sounds like some kind of chihuahua.
Yeah,
it's like a tiny
not a chihuahua, more like a sort of I don't know, maybe a St. Bernard, you know.
It's a subwoofer. It's a little one.
Yeah.
Either some you know, BDSM dogs. I don't know.
Well, there was a few of us. We used to do a lot of break dancing, and we'd have a roll of lino, we'd take it out, we'd lie it down, and we'd put our ghetto blasters, they were called. And a lot of guys had really massive ghetto blasters with huge speakers, tape to tape deck, radio in there. And I had this little tiny portable one which used to knock theirs for 6. So this was called the Akai PJ33. They were really powerful, really, really cool little ghetto blaster, very powerful. Probably, I think it was like 60 watts, which is quite powerful these days for a ghetto blaster, even a speaker. But, you don't see those in shops anymore, do you?
No, I think it's a shame, but all that kind of thing are part of history. I mean, I didn't ever do that. I used to just record my LPs onto a tape and then stick them in my, what did I have? My Cavalier. Drive around with the wind down the window by hand and play after I did for the instruction as loud as possible, driving past all these people with their ghetto blasters and a bit of our vinyl on the floor thinking, losers, look at me with my heavy metal and hair.
Did you have floppy hair and an earring?
I had many earrings. I didn't have hair for long enough to really go for it. Unfortunately, it was naturally permed. So by the time we got to my shoulders, it curled back up again, and I looked like I was in car wash. So, although if I did get wet look gel, which was always cool, and just put it through it, I looked like the Soul Glow bloke from
Coming to America.
Yeah, that's what my hair used to look like. So
that's
luckily it all fell out.
Did it? Oh, did it? Yeah, well, it did, didn't it? Yeah, unfortunately. Coming to America, they are making another one.
I know they are.
I'm looking forward to this, though. Are you? I always thought it had a bit of longevity, that film, and you kind of wanted to see another one, didn't you?
Well, Coming to America was one of the first weird Easter egg crossover movies that I remember watching, because the two old boys from Trading Places are in it.
That's right, yeah.
And that's the first time I went, oh, look, there's them again. So they're in the same weird universe. I mean, I don't know if Eddie Murphy's got comedy left in him.
He's a funny guy. He's a funny guy.
Yeah, but again, if you go back and watch Raw and Delirious, it's a bit cringy. Not a lot makes me cringe, but I listen to his jokes and I'm like, oh, really? And I remember at the time thinking it's hilarious. So I think I'm probably looking back and thinking, God, I can't believe I laughed at that kind of.
Well, I remember the ice cream, and all that sort of that whole bit. I loved all that. I rewatched it and I thought it was very funny. But you're right. Maybe that humour just doesn't stand up quite so well as stand-up.
Don't get me wrong. It was 30 years ago, and we've all moved on. I'm sure Eddie Murphy doesn't think any of that's funny anymore either. But Eddie Murphy's not made a good comedy for quite a long time.
Quite some time, yes.
He made a lot of kids' movies, which were okay if you're a kid, I imagine, but he's not made a good comedy for a long time. And in his day, he was brilliant.
Steve Martin's another one of those, isn't he?
I don't know what happened to Steve Martin. He was brilliant.
He just disappeared. Chevy Chase.
Making grown-up movies.
Chevy Chase disappeared. But what is currently on Netflix now is The Three Amigos.
Oh, I'll tell you another movie I started watching. Stir Crazy, which is also on Netflix. Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor.
That's worth a look. But if you haven't seen The Three Amigos, do watch that film.
I have. But I think that the weak link there's Martin Short, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It is great, though, isn't it? It is a great film.
And Steve Martin in his day, I mean, The Man with Two Brains, The Jerk, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, Roxanne, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I mean, they are some of the funniest
Parenthood.
Films. Well, that's when he started getting a bit more grown up, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
It was a comedy drama. I mean, young Keanu Reeves in it.
I did have Keanu Reeves in it, yeah.
And he was really good. But that's when he was basically Bill and Ted in everything.
Oh, wonderful stuff. So we also have that coming at some point too, the next Bill and Ted film. Are you looking forward to that?
again, it's one of these ones where 30 years down the line, they decide they're going to do a sequel, and you kind of wonder where and how they're going to do it.
Well, as their time travel, I mean, it's not impossible to do, is it?
No, I'm sure there'll be some de-aging of faces and stuff like that, which is always a bit weird. Like the new Will Smith trailer that I've seen where he's de-aged and he's got a thin face and big ears. Looks a bit weird. But, yeah, I'm not 100% sold on it. But I loved Bill and Ted.
They were great. Yeah.
It's the movie that Wayne's World wanted to be.
Well, you see, again, when we was in HMV today, I nearly brought up Wayne's World because I think my son, he picked up Leprechaun.
Yeah.
And I was going, Leprechaun. And I'm sure that was in Wayne's World.
And I've not watched it for a long time.
Anyway, it could have been. But anyway, I really loved that film. And I thought the second one wasn't that bad, Wayne's World 2.
And I really like Wayne's World, the original one. And that influenced culture to this day. We still inadvertently quote Wayne's World. And also, nobody can listen to Bohemian Rhapsody without wanting to shake their head like they do in the car.
It's the only reason why I like Bohemian Rhapsody. But there we are. Not a Queen fan. I did get to watch finally Bohemian Rhapsody.
What did you think?
Yeah. Which is making me sort of a bit dubious about seeing Rocket Man. Now, are you interested in seeing this new Elton John biopic?
I like Queen. I'm not a massive Queen fan, but I like Queen. It's not something I would buy, but if I hear it, I don't go, ugh. I really like Bohemian Rhapsody. I think it's a really classic track. And, the Highlander soundtrack and the Flash Gordon soundtrack and all that kind of stuff is iconic. So I kind of like Queen without being a massive fan. So I really enjoyed Bohemian Rhapsody. It was a delight and not a nice surprise to be that good. I dislike Elton John.
I thought, I'm sorry, Elton John fans out there, but myself personally, I do sort of think I wouldn't say he's overrated. I've just not quite seen the same perspective of him.
Again, I'm fully aware that my musical choices aren't everyone else, and I'm not a massive fan of the Beatles. I appreciate a lot of people are, so therefore I'm in the wrong. Also, a lot of people like Elton John. I don't particularly like his music, and he always comes across as a bit of a twat.
Yes, possibly. But there we are.
And the clips I've seen of it isn't like Bohemian Rhapsody was an kind of, autobiographical thing that, they skipped all the bad things. But it was a good movie, whereas this one looks a bit more trippy and, a bit more like Tommy and some of these weird acid trippy movies that I'm not entirely sure I'll be into.
Well, I'm sure there's a day in the week when you can go and check this out because you're a Cineworld card holder, so you can go and see as many films.
I've watched pretty much everything. I watch pretty much everything. I get a discount on the ice cream, so it's worth going just for the mint chocolate ice cream.
So it is.
So they have a cup of tea and a little mint chocolate ice cream.
That was a great cup of tea we had today. I must say, it was a little bit on the slightly milkier side. It wasn't like yours. I mean, I remember when we hung out last week, you made me a cup of tea and it was amazing. Like a pond as well, your size mug. But it was a cup of tea. But yeah, they do a nice ice cream in there, don't they? They
do. So I will probably at some point go and watch it. I mean, I'm a firm believer in, I pay for the Cineworld card. It's cheap and cheap. So if I watch 2 movies a month, I've saved money.
Yeah.
And I just think that by going to the cinema rather than watching things by download and dodgy methods, I am doing my bit for movies. I know the movies don't do that bad.
Yeah.
But, people watching movies by downloading. I think it ruins it. Go to the cinema. The way to watch a movie. You haven't got to have an unlimited card. And I understand that if you haven't, laying out £12 each or whatever it is to go and watch a movie, you've got to be pretty sure that you want to watch that movie. Otherwise, you're thinking, because I've walked out of movies that I wouldn't normally have gone to watch. I've gone to watch them purely for the tea and the ice cream, and it's a night out.
Yeah.
And then I finished with tea and the ice cream and thought, you know what? I'm not enjoying this. The Nun was one of a dreadful movie.
I don't think I've ever walked out of a film, actually.
I have. Not many, but I have. I left the Pikachu movie the other week, not because it was a terrible movie, but I was thinking, it's 9:30. What I really want to do is have a cup of tea and sit on the sofa and be more comfortable, because I'm a bit too big for the cinema seats. My shoulders don't fit, and I think, and I didn't really get it. Everyone else was cracking up, and everyone else was caught up in it, and I kind of felt like a bit of a fraud. Thinking, I'm sitting there watching this, thinking, and all I was thinking was, I could be having a cup of tea. And I'll watch it with the kids one day.
I remember a guy walking out of Deadpool, and I where's he going? And he didn't come back. And I think it's kind of probably the same thing. If you weren't in on the jokes, it's just going to go over your head, isn't it?
Well, when I watched The Nun, I think 4 or 5 people walked out before I did, because it truly was a dreadful movie. And I don't say these things lightly, but The Nun was everything that I dislike about a horror movie. It's the funny things about Scream is the things you wouldn't do in a horror movie. That's part of it. Never do this, that, or the other. And it's like in that movie, they took that list of Scream and went, oh, well, let's do the opposite. Let's do all the bad things you're not supposed to do. And I was like, oh, really? No one would do that. So I had enough. It's like no one would. This guy had found the body of a hung nun, and he'd put her in the storage thing. And then when they went to see her, she'd sat up, and then it got dark, and he's like, oh, I'm going to go now. And he's walking through the woods with his lantern, And then he sees the nun in front of him with the rope around his neck. Now, and then she walks off. Now, the first thing anyone in the world, including me, and I'm not afraid of many things apart from horses and wasps, if I saw that nun as she walked off, the first thing on my mind would not be, you know what, I wonder where she's going. I'll just follow her. It'll be, she might kill me. I'm going to run away as fast as I can, as far away in the other direction than this nun. And he's following this nun through the woods to a graveyard in the middle of the woods, and you kind of think, well, no. The whole part about a horror movie, or to feel the suspense of something, is for someone to be in a situation of not of their choosing, or there's something they can't get out of. Even with George, people swimming, they're getting by a shark. But everyone goes to the water and swims. It's just one of the things. Nobody's going to follow a zombie nun into a graveyard. Nobody.
I totally agree with you. I'm done with zombie nuns. I don't think I've ever seen a zombie nun, and neither do I want to ever see a zombie nun. So if you're not a fan of zombie nuns, don't watch The Nun, is what Jeremy's saying.
Even if you are a fan of zombie nuns, that's fine. But if you're not a fan of idiots who wouldn't follow a zombie nun, then don't watch it.
What I'd like to say is a huge thank you to our followers, not just on Twitter and Instagram and our Facebook group and Facebook page, but our Patreons. Thank you for those who have pledged towards our Patreon. Already. Yeah. We're absolutely over the moon already. For just £1 a month for the first tier, you can help keep the lights on at Retro Inc. That's basically our uploading, keeping the website hosting, and obviously just getting ourselves just up there on iTunes and getting ourselves out there as a more quality sounding podcast and more professional. Obviously, you've got 3 guys that aren't very professional, but the rest of it would be. So big thank you to those that have pledged. So if you go to Patreon, or you can download the Patreon app, you can then search for us, and you can pledge one of the 3 tiers. So just for £1 a month, that's 25p a week. Bearing in mind, our listeners have been getting the podcast for free, and we've put down plenty of content that some of them last 3 hours, for heaven's sake. We're going to continue to be doing that. And as a Patreon, you will be getting extra content. You will be getting your name put into a little hat and receive something in the post, not actually a prize draw, but it's a thank you, gratitude. So a huge thank you to that. Thank you very much for Rob Wade at E14 for endorsing the podcast, along with some other amazing podcasts in the E14 endorsement program. We thank you very much for that. This has been a Retro Inc. podcast production, a member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network, and obviously you can check out more podcasts of the Star Wars ilk and genre at the StarWarsCommonwealth.com. And as I said, you can join us on Twitter and Instagram and the Retro Inc. Facebook page. We are more than welcome to come and join us there for a little bit of banter. There's lots and lots of stuff going on there. Everything very, very new, everything very, very old. We have the Retro Inc. YouTube channel as well, where we stream this podcast. And we're also on Spotify. So alternatively, you can listen to us that way. And you can find us, of course, and many other podcasts at StarWarsCommonwealth.com, as I said. Podcasts such as the Retro Inc. podcast ourselves and the Tumbling Saber with Kyle, Corey, and Carlos. There's the Nerd Room with Tim and Sanjay and Troy, and you've got Generation X Room with Rob there. You've got Rogue Squadron. You've got San Diego Sabres Radio podcast. So if you're into dueling and lightsabers, that's your place. And the Sandcrawler podcast, which joined the network not so long ago, and they love all things Star Wars toys. So if you can, also, please give a minute of your time to give us a 5-star review on iTunes. We'd very much like that to be done from you. It won't take very long, just to say it's a great podcast, 5 stars. That's what you got to do. Simple. So give that a go. Please give our Retro Inc. Facebook page a like, and as I say, come and join in the fun on the group. No Andy this week. He'll be joining us next week as usual. Jeremy, thank you so much for a wonderful day out with yourself and your 2 children. We had a fab time. I know my kids absolutely loved wandering around the streets of Hastings. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you very much.
We'll see you next time. We're about to go record our little Patreon recording now. So if you are a Patreon, you'll receive this too. Not only will you get this podcast early, but you get a little extra too. Thanks very much for joining us, and share with your friends, and we'll see you next time on the Retro Inc. podcast.
Later.